I saw my husband's face change the moment he realized he had lost everything. It was subtle at first, a slight twitch in his jaw, the way his confident smile faltered for just a second. But I saw it. After 10 years of marriage, I knew every version of Mark's face. And this version? This was the one he had never shown me before. This was fear. But let me take you back to the beginning. Back to when I still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. Back to when I trusted the man I loved more than I trusted myself. My name is Elena, and I met Mark when I was 22 years old. He was 28, working at the same marketing firm where I had just landed my first real job after college. He was handsome in that effortless way, tall, with kind eyes and a laugh that made everyone around him feel special. Within 6 months, we were living together. Within a year, we were engaged. And within 2 years, I was walking down the aisle toward him, convinced that I was the luckiest woman in the world. Our wedding was beautiful. Simple, but beautiful. My mother cried. His father gave a toast that made everyone laugh. And Mark held my hand so tightly during the ceremony that I could feel his pulse through his fingers. I remember thinking that this was it. This was the moment that would anchor the rest of my life. For the first 7 years, I was right. We built a good life together. Mark started his own consulting business, and I supported him every step of the way. I stayed late at my own job, then came home and helped him with his proposals. I attended networking events even when I was exhausted. I believed in him completely. And when the business finally took off, when we moved into a bigger house and started talking about having children, I felt like all those years of hard work were finally paying off. But looking back now, I realized something important. While I was building my life around Mark, Mark was building something else entirely. Something I was never meant to see. It started with small things. Things so insignificant that I barely noticed them at the time. He started working late more often. He became protective of his phone in a way he had never been before. When I asked about his day, his answers became shorter, vaguer. He stopped looking me in the eye when he talked. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself that stress was making me see problems that didn't exist. Mark loved me. Mark would never hurt me. I repeated these words like a prayer, hoping that if I said them enough times, they would keep the darkness away. They didn't. The night I discovered the truth, I had come home early from a work trip. My flight landed at midnight, and I decided not to call ahead because I didn't want to wake Mark. I just wanted to crawl into bed next to him and fall asleep to the sound of his breathing. But when I walked through the front door, I heard voices coming from the living room. Voices that shouldn't have been there at midnight. I stood in the entryway, my suitcase still in my hand, and listened. Mark was talking to someone, a woman. Their voices were low, intimate, the kind of tone you use when you think no one else is listening. I didn't announce myself. I didn't storm in. Something stopped me. Some instinct that told me to wait, to watch, to understand before I reacted. I quietly set down my suitcase and walked toward the living room, staying close to the wall. And then I saw them. Mark was sitting on the couch with Jessica, my younger sister. They weren't just talking. They were tangled together, his hands in her hair, her legs draped across his lap. They were kissing like people who had done this 1,000 times before, like people who had forgotten that I existed. I must have made a sound, because suddenly they both froze. Mark's eyes found mine over Jessica's shoulder, and in that moment, I saw something I had never seen in him before. Not guilt, not shame, just annoyance. Like I was an interruption. Like I was the one who had done something wrong. Jessica scrambled off his lap, her face pale, her lips parted in shock. "Elena," she whispered, "this isn't what it looks like." I almost laughed. Almost. But the sound that came out of my mouth wasn't a laugh. It was something broken, something I didn't recognize as my own voice. "How long?" I asked. My voice was calm. I don't know how, but it was calm. Mark stood up slowly. He straightened his shirt, ran a hand through his hair. And then he did something that I will never forget. He looked at me with those kind eyes that I had loved for 10 years, and he said, "It's been about a year." A year. A full year of lies. A full year of him coming home to me after being with her. A full year of me cooking his dinners, washing his clothes, loving him with everything I had while he was sleeping with my own sister behind my back. Jessica started crying. She said she was sorry.
She said it just happened.
She said all the things that people say when they get caught, as if those words could somehow undo what they had done. I didn't say anything to her. I couldn't even look at her. I just kept staring at Mark, waiting for him to give me something, anything, that would make sense of this nightmare. Instead, he said, "We never meant for you to find out like this." And that's when something inside me shifted. Something cold and hard and very, very still. "You never meant for me to find out at all," I said quietly. "That was the plan, wasn't it? Keep lying to me forever. Keep using me forever." Mark had the decency to look down at that. But Jessica, my own sister, she looked at me with something almost like defiance. As if I was the one being unreasonable. As if my pain was an inconvenience to her. I turned and walked out of the house. I didn't run. I walked. I walked to my car, got in, and drove to a hotel. I sat in that hotel room all night, staring at the wall, feeling nothing and everything at the same time. The next few weeks were a blur. Mark called constantly. He left voicemails full of apologies and excuses. He said he still loved me. He said the thing with Jessica was a mistake. He said he wanted to work things out. My mother called too. She said Jessica was devastated. She said families go through hard times. She said I should consider forgiveness. Forgiveness. The word felt like acid in my mouth. I stayed in that hotel for 2 weeks, avoiding everyone, trying to figure out what to do next. And then Mark showed up at my door. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, desperate. He dropped to his knees in the hallway and begged me to come home. He said he would do anything. He said he would go to counseling. He said he would cut off all contact with Jessica. For one brief, terrible moment, I almost believed him. I almost let myself fall back into the illusion. Because letting go of 10 years is hard. Because loving someone doesn't turn off like a switch. Because part of me wanted to believe that the man I married was still in there somewhere. But then I looked at his face, really looked at it, and I saw something I had never noticed before. I saw that his eyes weren't kind at all. They were calculating. They were measuring. They were trying to figure out how to fix this mess without losing everything he had built. And that's when I understood. Mark didn't love me. He loved what I gave him. He loved the stability, the support, the life I had helped him create. I was just a piece of his puzzle. And when he found another piece that fit, my own sister no less, he tried to fit her in too. I didn't say yes to coming home. But I didn't say no either. I told him I needed time. I told him I would think about it. And I watched the relief flood his face as he stood up, kissed my forehead, and promised to be better. He thought I was coming back. He thought I was weak enough to forgive. He had no idea what was coming. Over the next month, I played a role. I moved back into the house, but only to gather information. I told Mark I needed space, so I slept in the guest room. He accepted this, grateful that I was there at all. And while he slept, I worked. I started with the financial records. Mark handled all our money. I had trusted him completely, signed whatever he put in front of me. But now I went through every statement, every transfer, every account. And what I found made my blood run cold. Mark had been slowly siphoning money out of our joint accounts for years. Tens of thousands of dollars moved into accounts I didn't know existed. Accounts in his name only. Accounts that held enough money for him to walk away and never look back. He had been planning this for a long time. The affair with Jessica wasn't just about lust or excitement. It was about replacement. He had found someone younger, someone easier to manipulate, and he was making sure he had the resources to start a new life with her once he was done with me. But he had made one critical mistake. He had underestimated me. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry or scream or demand explanations. Instead, I smiled and played the broken wife trying to heal. I went to counseling with him. I let him hold my hand in public. I even had dinner with his parents and pretended everything was fine. And every night I worked. I hired a forensic accountant, a woman named Diana who specialized in cases exactly like mine. She was sharp, discreet, and she didn't ask questions about why I wanted this information. She just found it. It turned out Mark hadn't just hidden money. He had lied about the success of his business. The consulting firm that I had helped build, it was barely profitable. The impressive income we lived on came largely from an inheritance my grandmother had left me. Money Mark had convinced me to invest in our future. Our future. The phrase made me sick. Diana also found evidence of credit cards I didn't know about. Cards that Mark used to take Jessica on weekend trips, to buy her jewelry, to pay for hotel rooms while I was at work. Thousands and thousands of dollars, all spent on my sister while I sat at home believing my marriage was solid. I documented everything. Every dollar, every lie, every betrayal. I made copies of bank statements, credit card bills, text messages I found on an old phone Mark had thrown away. I built a case so complete that there would be no room for doubt, no room for escape. And then I started the second phase of my plan. I reached out to Mark's biggest clients. I had met most of them over the years. I had helped wine and dine them, impressed them with my knowledge of Mark's business. Now I told them, very quietly, that Mark's company was facing serious legal issues. I hinted at financial irregularities. I suggested they might want to review their contracts. I didn't lie. I just planted seeds. And seeds, when watered with suspicion, grow very quickly. Within weeks, 2 of Mark's biggest clients pulled their business. Then 3 more. Panic spread through his company, and Mark had no idea why. He came home every night stressed and angry, complaining about bad luck, about disloyal clients, about the universe turning against him. I listened. I sympathized. I made him tea and told him everything would work out. And inside, I was smiling. The next step was Jessica. My sister had been avoiding me since the night everything fell apart, but now I reached out. I called her and said I wanted to talk. I said I was ready to forgive. She met me at a coffee shop, nervous and guilty. She started apologizing before she even sat down. She said she was so sorry. She said she never wanted to hurt me. She said Mark had pursued her, had convinced her that our marriage was already over, that I was cold and distant and didn't love him anymore. I let her talk. I let her explain. I even let her cry. And then I told her something she didn't expect. I told her I understood. I told her that Mark was very good at manipulation. I told her that I didn't blame her, I blamed him. Jessica looked at me with such relief, such gratitude, that I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Mark loves you, I said softly. I can see that now. And I want you both to be happy. She stared at me like I had grown a second head. You want us to be together? I nodded. Our marriage was broken long before you came along. It's better this way. Really. Jessica didn't know what to say. She sat there, tears streaming down her face, thanking me for my forgiveness, for my generosity, for my understanding. She had no idea. Over the next few weeks, I became Jessica's confidant. I asked about her relationship with Mark. I offered advice. I encouraged her to trust him, to build a life with him, to believe in their future together. And in return, she told me everything. About Mark's promises, about their plans, about the house they wanted to buy, the life they wanted to build, the children they wanted to have. I listened to all of it. I smiled at all of it. And I added every detail to my growing file. Meanwhile, Mark's business was collapsing. Client after client left, citing vague concerns about his company's stability. His employees started jumping ship. His reputation, the reputation I had helped him build, was crumbling. He came to me one night, desperate and broken. I don't know what's happening, he said. Everything was fine, and now it's all falling apart. I held his hand. I looked into his eyes, and I said, maybe it's karma. He laughed bitterly. I don't believe in karma. You should, I said softly. He didn't understand. Not yet. The final piece of my plan required patience. I waited until Mark was at his lowest, until his business was on the verge of bankruptcy, until his debts were piling up, until he had nowhere left to turn. And then I made him an offer. I told him I had access to money. My grandmother's inheritance had been carefully invested, and I could liquidate some of it. Enough to save his business. Enough to give him a second chance. Mark looked at me like I was an angel. He fell to his knees and promised to spend the rest of his life making it up to me. He said he would leave Jessica. He said he would do anything. I told him I needed time to think about it. I told him to come to a meeting at my lawyer's office the next day. I said we needed to make everything official to protect both of us. He agreed without hesitation. The next morning, Mark arrived at the lawyer's office looking hopeful. He was dressed in his best suit, clean-shaven, smiling. He thought his problems were over. He thought I was saving him. He was wrong. We sat down in the conference room. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia, sat next to me. Mark's lawyer was on the phone because Mark hadn't thought to bring one in person. Patricia began speaking. She laid out the terms of the financial arrangement I had proposed. But as she spoke, Mark's smile slowly faded. Because there was no arrangement. There was no money. Instead, there was a lawsuit. A lawsuit for fraud, for theft, for financial exploitation. There were copies of every bank statement, every hidden account, every credit card charge. There were printouts of text messages between Mark and Jessica. There was documentation of everything. Mark's face went pale, then red, then pale again. "What is this?" he whispered. I leaned forward. I looked him in the eyes I had once loved, the eyes I had once trusted. And I said, "This is what happens when you underestimate the woman you betrayed." He tried to argue. He tried to explain. He said the money was for us, for our future, for investments he was going to tell me about. He said I was overreacting. He said we could work this out. But Patricia kept talking. She explained that Mark would be facing criminal charges unless he agreed to my terms. And my terms were simple. I wanted everything. The house, the cars, the retirement accounts, whatever was left of his business. I wanted it all. And I wanted him to sign away his rights to fight me in court. Mark looked at me with hatred in his eyes. "You're destroying me," he said. I shook my head.
No, Mark.
"You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows it."
He signed.
He had no choice. And when he walked out of that office, he was a different man, broken, defeated, hollow. But I wasn't done yet. The next week, I invited my entire family to dinner at my house. My mother, my father, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, and Jessica. They came expecting a reconciliation. They came expecting to see a family healing from its wounds. Instead, I stood up after dinner and told them everything. I told them about the affair. I told them about the stolen money. I told them about the years of lies. And then I played a recording of Jessica telling me about her plans with Mark, about how they had laughed at me behind my back, about how they thought I was too stupid to ever find out. The silence in that room was deafening. Jessica tried to deny it, but the recording was clear. My mother started crying. My father looked at Jessica like he had never seen her before. And my aunts and uncles sat in stunned silence, unsure what to say. I didn't stay for the aftermath. I walked out of my own house, got in my car, and drove away. It's been 6 months since that night. Mark's business is gone. He works at a coffee shop now. Someone sent me a photo. Jessica moved to another state. She doesn't talk to anyone in our family anymore. My mother calls me sometimes, crying, asking me to make things right. But I don't answer. I live alone now, in a small apartment by the water. It's not the house I shared with Mark, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture, every painting on the wall, every book on the shelf, I chose them myself. I paid for them myself. And no one can take them away. Sometimes I think about what happened. About the woman I was before, the woman who believed in love, who trusted completely, who gave everything without asking questions. I miss her sometimes. She was innocent, in a way I can never be again. But I don't regret what I did. I don't regret the revenge, the planning, the execution. Because here's what I learned. Forgiveness is a gift you give to people who deserve it. And some people don't deserve forgiveness. Some people deserve to face the consequences of what they've done. Mark and Jessica thought they could destroy me and walk away. They thought I would crumble, that I would cry and beg and fall apart. They thought I was weak. They were wrong. I am stronger than I ever knew. And when I look in the mirror now, I don't see a victim. I don't see a broken woman. I see someone who survived. Someone who fought back. Someone who took everything that was stolen from her and made sure the thieves would never steal again. If you're going through something similar, if someone you love has betrayed you, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. You can survive this. And you don't have to forgive just because people tell you to. You get to decide what justice looks like. You get to decide what healing means. Just be smart. Be patient. Be strategic. And when the moment comes, don't hesitate. Because the best revenge isn't about hurting people. It's about taking back your power. It's about showing them and showing yourself that you are not someone to be underestimated. I'm Elena, and this is my story.